In the foregoing interpretations, which finally led to exposing care as the being of Dasein, the most important thing was to arrive at the appropriate ontological foundations of the being which we ourselves actually are, and which we call human being. For this purpose, it was necessary from the outset to change the direction of our analysis from the approach presented by the traditional definition of human being, which is an approach that is ontologically unclarified and fundamentally questionable. In comparison with this definition, the existential and ontological interpretation might seem strange, especially if care is understood just ontically as worry and trouble. Accordingly, we shall cite a document that is pre-ontological in character, even though its demonstrative power is only historical. Let us bear in mind, however, that in this document Dasein expresses itself about itself, primordially, unaffected by any theoretical interpretation and without aiming to propose any. Furthermore, let us observe that the being of Dasein is characterized by historicality, though this must be demonstrated ontologically. If Dasein is historical in the basis of its being, then a statement that comes from its history and goes back to it, and that is prior to any scientific knowledge, takes on a special importance which, however, is never purely ontological. The understanding of being which lies in Dasein itself expresses itself pre-ontologically. What is cited in the following document is to make clear the fact that our existential interpretation is not a mere fabrication, but as an ontological construction. It is well grounded and has been sketched out beforehand in elemental way. The following self-interpretation of Dasein as care is preserved in an old fable, 5 cura cum fluvium transert, vidit credasum ludum sustulit cogitabunda ac coepit finger. Dum deliberat quid eum fecesset. Javis intervenit. Rogit eum cura dedili spiritum, et facilum petra. Cui cum velit cura nomen ex sis ipso imponer, Javis prohibuit suumque nomen idandum esse dictatat. Dum cura et Javis deceptant, tellus surrexit simul suumque nomen esse volt cui corpus preburit suum. Sumpserunt Saturnum eudicum, is sic ecus eudicat. Tu Javis quia spiritum dedisti, in mort spiritum, tu tellus quia dedisti corpus recipido, cura enim quia prima finxit, tenit quamdiu vixerit. Sed qui nunc de nomen ius vobis controversia est, homo vociter, quia viter esse factus ex humo. Once when Care was crossing a river, she saw some clay, she thoughtfully took a piece and began to shape it. While she was thinking about what she had made, Jupiter came by. Care asked him to give it spirit, and this he gladly granted. But when she wanted her name to be bestowed upon it, Jupiter forbade this and demanded that it be given his name instead. While Care and Jupiter were arguing, Earth Tellus arose and desired that her name be conferred upon the creature, since she had offered it part of her body. They asked Saturn to be the judge, and Saturn gave them the following decision, which seemed to be just. Since you, Jupiter, have given it spirit, you should receive that spirit at death, and since you, Earth, have given its body, you shall receive its body. But since Care first shaped this creature, she shall possess it as long as it lives. And because there is a dispute among you as to its name, let it be called Homo, for it is made out of humus earth. This pre-ontological document becomes especially significant not only in that Care is here seen as that to which human Dasein belongs for its lifetime, but also because this priority of Care emerges in connection with the familiar interpretation of human being as a compound of body, earth, and spirit. Cura prima finxit. This being has the origin of its being in Care. Cura tenit quamdiu vixerit. This being is not released from its origin, but is held fast and dominated by it, as long as this being is in the world. Being in the world has the character of being of Care. It does not get its name, Homo, with regard to its being, but in relation to that of which it consists, humus. The decision as to wherein the primordial being of this creature is to be seen is left to Saturn, time. 6. The pre-ontological characterization of the essence of human being expressed in this fable, thus, has envisaged from the very beginning the mode of being which rules its temporal sojourn in the world. The history of the signification of the ontic concept of cura permits us to see still further fundamental structures of Dasein. Burdetch calls our attention to an ambiguity of the term cura, according to which it means not only anxious effort, but also carefulness, dedication. Thus Seneca writes in his last letter, Ep. 124, of the four existing natures, tree, animal, human being, God, the last two, which alone are endowed with reason, are distinguished in that God is immortal, human being mortal. The good of the one, namely of God, is fulfilled by its nature, but that of the other, human being, is fulfilled by Care, cura, Unius bonum natura perficit, DCI silicet, ulterius cura haminit. The perfectio of human being, becoming what one can be in being free for one's own most possibilities, project is an accomplishment of care. But equiprimordially, care determines the fundamental mode of this being according to which it is delivered over thrownness, to the world taken care of. The ambiguity of care refers to a single basic constitution in its essentially twofold structure of thrown project. As compared with the ontic interpretation, the existential and ontological interpretation is not only a theoretical and ontic generalization. That would only signify that ontically all the human being's behavior is full of care and guided by his dedication to something. The generalization is an a priori ontological one. It does not refer to ontic qualities that constantly keep emerging, but to a constitution of being which always already is taken as a basis. This constitution first makes it ontologically possible that this being can be addressed ontically as cura. The existential condition of the possibility of the cares of life and dedication must be conceived in a primordial, that is, ontological sense as care. The transcendental universality of the phenomenon of care and all fundamental existentials has, on the other hand, that broad scope through which the basis is given on which every ontic interpretation of Dasein with a worldview moves, whether it understands Dasein as the cares of life and need, or in an opposite manner. The emptiness and generality of the existential structures which obtrude themselves ontically have their own ontological definiteness and fullness. The whole of the constitution of Dasein itself is not simple in its unity, but shows a structural articulation which is expressed in the existential concept of care. Our ontological interpretation of Dasein has brought the preontological self-interpretation of this being as care to the existential concept of care. The analytic of Dasein does not aim, however, at an ontological basis for anthropology. It has a fundamental ontological goal. This goal has tacitly determined the course of our considerations, our choice of phenomena, and the limits to which our analysis may penetrate. With regard to our leading question of the meaning of being and its development, our inquiry must now, however, explicitly secure what has been gained so far. But something like this cannot be attained by an external synopsis of what has been discussed. Rather, what could only be roughly indicated at the beginning of the existential analytic must be sharpened to a more penetrating understanding of the problem with the help of what we have gained.